here with me today is Andrew Szilva. Andrew is he's the executive director of an organization called FairVote here in Illinois. Of course, they've got chapters and organizations all across the country. Andrew, thanks for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much.
So the reason, Andrew, that you are joining me today is because there is a new bill in the Illinois Senate that essentially is in regards to something called ranked choice voting. And before we get into that specific bill, I want to kind of have a blanket conversation about what ranked choice voting is, because I hear anecdotally from people who are all across the political spectrum that, you know, our election system is broken and it needs reform. But then when you start talking about reform, people are hesitant of ideas that they don't get, they don't understand, or are just new. It's foreign to them. They've never used it before. So let's just start off this conversation by talking about what ranked choice voting is and how it works.
Okay, and I agree. What we hear is that government is broken. People in general, whether you're on the left or on the right, feel that they're not being represented by the government. And that's at the local, state, federal levels. And so what ranked choice voting is, it's an upgrade to the way we vote. So today when we vote, you go to the ballot box and you select a single candidate. Mm-hmm. And the winner is the person who has more votes than any other candidate. And at times, that's only less than a majority. It's less than 50% oftentimes. With ranked choice voting, you go to the ballot box and you rank your candidate. First choice, second choice, third choice, down the list, any order you like. And what it does is it ensures that the eventual winner has the support of the majority of the voters.
So you've got a system where if you have more than two candidates, instead of just voting for one, you essentially rank them in the order that you prefer as a voter. What happens after that?
Yeah, so when the votes are counted, we look at everyone's first choice. And we count up everyone's first choice votes. If someone has 50% or more, they're the winner. The election's over, just like it is today. However, if no one has 50%, if no one has a majority, we do an instant runoff. We eliminate the candidate that came in last place. And if I voted for that last place candidate, my vote goes to my second choice instead. And then we retally the votes. And if someone has 50%, great, right? We have a winner. If not, we repeat that process. We eliminate the last place candidate and choose those voters' next choice.
So what are some of the benefits of ranked choice voting? I know there's probably some listeners thinking right now, okay, this would help this would help that. What are some reasons ranked choice voting might be better than our current system where just the candidate with the most votes wins?
So with ranked choice voting, the eventual winner has support of a majority. And so that incentivizes the candidates to appeal to a majority. So instead of just appealing to your base of supporters, you're very much incentivized to appeal to everybody, or at least a large portion of the population, because if I can't be your first choice, I still want to be your second choice or your third choice, because that's what it might take to win. On top of that, it leads to more civil elections, because since I want to be your second choice or third choice, I'm much less incentivized to trash my opponents. Instead, I focus on issues and ways to bring in more supporters to me. Yep.
So speaking with Andrew Szilva, he's the executive director of an organization called FairVote. Right now, there is a bill in the Illinois Senate that would introduce ranked choice voting for several different offices in the state of Illinois. We'll get to the specific bill in a little bit, but I want to continue talking a little bit about just what ranked choice voting looks like and how it's implemented. And I know that second part, the how it's implemented, is somewhat people tread lightly when they start talking about that. I think there's a lot of folks who hear about ranked choice voting and they think, okay, that's an idealist perspective. Like, this sounds really good, but it's impossible. There's no way that it could possibly work. But there are several communities and now even some states that have successfully implemented ranked choice voting, right?
Yeah, that's correct. So Maine gets a lot of attention. They implemented ranked choice voting statewide back in 2016. They used it this past election, even for the presidential election. Alaska followed suit in November. They passed ranked choice voting statewide, so they're going to start using it soon. There are many cities across the U.S., San Francisco, Oakland, Minneapolis, New York City, at least now I think at least 30 others that have either used ranked choice voting or approved it to be used across the U.S. And this goes across party lines. There's the Democratic Party used it last November in 5 states for the presidential primaries. The Republican Party used it internally in their state conventions in Indiana and in Utah. So we're seeing support all across the board.
Yeah, I was going to say the having the 2 states that currently have adopted being Maine, a traditionally blue state for the most part, and Alaska, traditionally a very red state, being the 2 states in the union that have ranked choice voting. To me, that's kind of symbolic that it's not necessarily a partisan issue as far as one party or the other.
Absolutely. It doesn't favor in itself any particular party. In fact, it gives voters the opportunity to vote for the candidate that they like best is number 1, and who they like second best, number 2. So I'm not forced as a voter to decide, do I vote for who I like best versus who I think has the best shot of winning.
Talking with Andrew Szilva, he's the executive director of FairVote. Andrew, I want to talk to you about Maine because you said that was the one that got a bunch of the press. You know, it was the first state that I had heard of that had adopted ranked choice voting. And there was actually an election this past cycle in November, I believe. We were kind of chatting about it before the show, where ranked choice voting actually changed the outcome because you didn't have a candidate. The candidate who got the most votes through the first round did not have a majority, and more votes from the independent candidate went to the second place person, and they ended up winning the election. So to someone who says, well, that's not fair, you know, there was some conversation about that election being stolen because of that. What's your response to that criticism?
So that's a great case of where ranked choice voting makes a lot of sense. So we have, it was a 3-candidate race. And when we eliminated the third place candidate, the votes got reallocated, like you said, and the person who was originally in second was the winner. But that's exactly what we want with ranked choice voting, where the winner was the person who won the head-to-head matchup between the two. And that's part of what ranked choice voting ensures, that the person who's supported by the majority of the voters is the one that is, in fact, nominated.
So one of the major criticisms that I frequently hear when folks bring up ranked choice voting is the amount of time, money, and resources it will take to administer elections, because you're no longer just counting, okay, this person got this many, this person got this many. You have to tabulate, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4, 5, and 6, and then have those instant runoffs. And I know that, computer technology has made that a little bit more simplified, but still you'll have to have the, technological systems in place and the manpower to input that data. So what's your response to that criticism? Because to me, that's one of the legitimate criticisms of a system that's a little bit more complex than just a winner-take-all, not even a majority election, but just whoever gets the most votes.
Yeah. So it is true that with a ranked choice voting election, it may take a little bit longer to get the eventual winner, right? So,
and look, we were frustrated with just a few days in November, right, with the presidential election, and now you're going to ask us to take even longer? Come on.
Yeah, perhaps. So, there are voting equipment that tallies the vote automatically. We do have to, on paper ballots, run those through a machine to make sure we get the right ordering, or to make sure we could do that tallying. The results that are being reported would be first round. That should be just as fast in general. That's what we're seeing as the tallying we do today. When we have to eliminate a candidate, it might take a little bit of extra time, but we feel that's much worth the wait to get the most preferred candidate.
Speaking with Andrew Szilva, he's the executive director of FairVote Illinois. an advocacy group for fair elections, including ranked choice voting. Andrew, I wanted to bring up a few of the other common criticisms, and I hear this one a lot when I bring up ranked choice voting or other different systems of representation. We were talking about proportional representation before we came on the air. I hear this criticism a lot, and it's how do we educate voters, and is a more complex system going to discourage participation in elections?
Mm-hmm. So educating voters is largely what we're doing as an organization. So that is FairVote Illinois' primary objective. And what we're finding is that as we go out and we educate people on what ranked choice voting is, overwhelmingly, everyone says, why are we not doing this already? This makes so much sense. It's such a no-brainer. We should have been doing this all along. We do have to educate people how to use it. There's an organization, Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center, that ran an experiment and did ranked choice voting with middle school students and gave them very little information ahead of time, just bare bones, just rank your choices. And they did this around the holiday season of 2019. And it was with rank your favorite movies and your favorite Christmas treats. And what they found was even with very minimal explanation, people just know how to rank things. We do it all the time. They can rank their top choice, second choice, third choice down the list. And so it's a concern until people go to the ballot box and they realize it's really, really simple.
Now, what about a situation, and I brought this up as a possible snag in ranked choice voting before we got on the show today. What about a possible situation where, you just because you have ranked choice voting doesn't mean every voter has to rank every choice. So, if they only feel comfortable with one of the candidates being elected, they might put a 1 and then just leave the rest blank. So you open yourself to the possibility of someone winning an election without that majority, and that, in my mind, getting to a majority is kind of the whole point of ranked choice voting. So what happens in that situation, and are there ways to get around that type of situation?
There is the option of saying all rankings are required, but in general, we don't do that or support it, because I may say I prefer this candidate number 1, and after that I have no preference. I don't care who wins.
Sure.
And so in that case, fine. If my candidate got eliminated, I'm choosing to not vote, or I'm choosing to not contribute toward the final outcome because I don't have a preference. And so in many ways, that's a benefit we see of ranked choice voting, in that I could state my preferences, and if I have no preference after some point, that's fine. And then one additional thing on that is we see with runoff elections today,
right,
that when we have an election and the top 2 or however many go to a runoff, there's a drop-off in voter participation. And so that drop-off tends to be fairly large. And with ranked choice voting, since we're ranking them and it's an instant runoff, we don't see nearly that same drop-off in participation.
Right. All right. Andrew Szilva, stick around through the break, my man, because we will talk a little bit about this bill coming through the Senate here in Illinois. I want to get your thoughts on it, talk about the specifics of this bill, and how we can get some more support for it. That's coming up on the other end of the break. This is the Steve Cease Show on Cities 92.9.
Cities 92.9. This is Steve Cease.
Cities 92.9, news and talk of Bloomington Normal, continuing our conversation this afternoon with Andrew Szilva. He's from an organization called FairVote. And Andrew, I want to give you a chance to plug FairVote. Tell me what FairVote's all about, how long you guys been around, and how people can get involved if they're interested.
Yeah, FairVote Illinois was started informally back in around 2017. It was just a small group of volunteers. And then last year, we became an official nonprofit in June, where we're a 501c3. We're doing mostly outreach education on ranked choice voting. people who want to get involved, go to the website, fairvoteillinois.org, and click to sign up, which would put you on our newsletter, volunteer, or donate. We could always use the extra cash. It helps tremendously in getting the word out.
Yeah, what types of things do you guys fund with your donations? Like what type of kind of advocacy do you guys give money to candidates? I don't think you can as a 501c3, but where does that money go? Because I know a lot of times when people think of these organizations, they think, oh, my money might go to a candidate that I don't particularly like, but that's probably not the case in this situation.
That is not the case. We're a 501c3, so we can't support a candidate in any way, especially not financially. Where it does go is we're a completely volunteer organization, so it's not going to pay anyone's salary or anything like that either. We use it for outreach materials. We go to lots of farmers markets and events where we just talk about ranked choice voting. We give presentations. We occasionally will boost something on social media just to get the word out. We're also putting together lots of little videos and informational pieces just, again, to educate on ranked choice voting and help people get comfortable with it because, like we said, as people learn more about it, overwhelmingly, they think it makes a ton of sense.
All right, Andrew Szilva, he's the executive director of FairVote Illinois. And the reason we have Andrew on the show today is because there is a ranked choice voting bill currently making its way through our legislature in Illinois, Senate Bill 1785. Talk to me about the bill. What specifically is in this bill? Which races would have ranked choice voting with them right now? I know we were talking about a possible amendment that may or may not happen. So tell me about what this bill looks like now and what it might look like down the road a little bit, too.
Yeah. SB 1785 is a ranked choice voting bill for state offices in the state of Illinois. So that's the entire General Assembly, governor, lieutenant governor, secretary of state, treasurer, comptroller, and it applies to the general election. So any general election for those offices, ranked choice voting would be applied. There is a possible amendment that Senator Laura Murphy, who introduced the bill, is considering. One would be to extend it to include primaries, which we are huge supporters of. She's a huge supporter of because a lot of the elections that we have, particularly in the General Assembly, are more or less won in the primaries. So we really want to see ranked choice voting there. The other thing, it would be to extend it to ranked choice voting to federal elections. So potentially the House and Senate, but presidential for sure is part of what's being considered in the amendment. And we love that as well. That's what most people think of when they think of voting. They think of voting for president. So we would love to see ranked choice voting there as well.
Sure. And, I'm immediately going directly to, for example, the gubernatorial election in Illinois in 2018, where you had a four-way race. Governor Pritzker won that four-way race. But I think there was a lot of shared ideology between the other three candidates that he was running against. So that could have been a situation where ranked choice voting may have actually helped out quote unquote conservatives, folks on the right of center, whatever you want to call, that group of, Sam McCann and Bruce Rauner and then Cass Jackson, the libertarian. A lot of times when people hear about these election reform ideas, and we kind of talked about this before the show, there's a stigma of like, oh, well, these are a bunch of kooky left-wing people who want to do weird things with our elections. But we're seeing situations in real life where ranked choice voting probably would have helped conservative candidates in some way, shape, or form.
Yep. So we don't know for sure how that governor race would have turned out.
Yeah.
Right. So we don't know if it would have changed the race, and maybe not. Right. But what would be really great about using ranked choice voting in that case is that we know that who did get elected was the most preferred, and we could see that result. We could see how it plays out. So if someone's first choice, wasn't one of the top candidates,
sure,
they would get transferred to the next vote.
So this is the Senate Bill 1785. Again, it's a ranked choice voting bill. Right now, it is just the general elections and just the state elections where we would see this. No local and no federal. However, there might be an amendment that could open it up to the primaries, which to me makes the most sense because that's where you have in the primary process, you have the most people who are choosing between like-minded candidates. So your finer details kind of can get sorted out a little better in a ranked choice voting primary than in just your winner-take-all primary election. So that's where we're sitting right now. The bill does have bipartisan support. I think the last time I checked, there was one Republican co-sponsor, and the rest of the sponsors were Democrats. Why is it kind of shifted so much toward one party, do you think?
So I'm not exactly sure why we have that support right now, other than FairVote Illinois is pushing our senators to support the bill.
Sure.
We have more volunteers out in the Chicago area, which tends to be
that's
the
where
blue
all
part
the
of the state.
yeah, sure. That's where those folks are elected. Yeah,
and that's really the reason we see it. But even as our representatives learn more about it, there tends to be high bipartisan support.
Sure. One more thing that I want to ask you about this bill, because I have been a proponent for electoral reform in many different arenas and aspects in the past. We were kind of chatting before the show. We had a ballot access reform bill that was on the table, sitting in committee just right before COVID happened a year ago, and it died in committee. A couple of years ago, we had another ballot access reform bill that died in committee. Every time it seems like electoral reform is proposed in Illinois, folks who want to see reform get excited, and then the bills just go to die in committee. Why should we be more hopeful about Senate Bill 1785?
So our hope is that doing these conversations like we're having now and getting more public support basically ensures that it goes through.
Sure.
So we still have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of people are hearing about ranked choice voting for the first time right now.
Right.
But as people learn more about this and we get more public support, that's what really we believe is going to power it through.
So there you go, Senate Bill 1785. Go fill out your witness slips, folks, and show your folks in Springfield that there is some support for ranked choice voting here in Illinois. Andrew Szilva, he's the executive director of FairVote Illinois. Andrew, give us one more plug for FairVote. How can we find more information? Yeah,
go to our website, fairvoteillinois.org. Sign up, volunteer, donate. We'd love to see you there.
Very good. Again, that's Senate Bill 1785, ranked choice voting here in Illinois. When we come back, we'll do the good, the bad, the ugly, and local and state news. Andrew Szilva, thanks for joining me. I appreciate it.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
All right, we're going to head to break. We'll be right back with more Steve C. Show. This is the news and talk of Bloomington Normal Cities, 92.9.